good morning. It's Monday, so I'm doing another book talk. I know I skipped out last week because we were testing and I couldn't figure out when to fit it in. We were closed a lot during testing, and I'm sorry for that. But we are going to be in the cafeteria. I'm going to be in the cafeteria tomorrow, so Tuesday, December 10th, during second and third lunch. And Miss Corder is going to be in there on Wednesday, the 11th, during second and third lunch. We're not going to be in there during first lunch because we are open during first lunch. And one of us has to eat and the other one's running the library. So if you need something during first lunch, stop by the library on your way to lunch and you can talk to us or turn in your book or whatever you need to do. But during second and third lunch on Tuesday and Wednesday this week, one of us will be in the cafeteria. I'm already stressing out about it myself because the cafeteria is a great source of anxiety for me. But I'm going to push myself outside of my comfort zone so that I can bring the library to you since we're closed so much during this testing season. Anyway, in the last 2 weeks, I have completed a couple of books. I want to talk about two of them. The first one is one that I did not really like. You can't see that really great, but it's called The Gilded Wolves by Choksoni. I listened to it on audio. And there were two different narrators, a female narrator and a male narrator. It takes place in Paris, and it's kind of historical-ish, but there's a lot of fantasy elements as well. There's a girl who can touch objects and read things from them. There's a guy who can create all sorts of fantastical kind of magical things. People have a power called forging, where they can create magical objects and things like that. You may enjoy this book, but for me, there were entirely too many characters with too many side stories to keep up with. I was getting confused between like what character I was supposed to be, what character we were talking about when. Some people like that. But it was very complicated. A lot of different chapters by different people's perspectives. I don't mind having an alternating perspective book where, this chapter we're this guy and this chapter we're this other person. But when you have like 4 or 5 different perspectives, I get a little lost. Also, I didn't really care for the way the narration was done. Because a lot of the characters had accents of some sort or another, like French accents, but it was really kind of jarring. The narrator accent was kind of like they were really trying to provide a big contrast between the narrator and the characters, which maybe they were doing that to try to make sure we knew when it was a character's dialogue or whatever, but it was discordant to me. I really did not like it. But I powered through to the end because that's what I do. It's really hard for me to just abandon a book. I like to see if it's going to get any better, but I probably won't read any more of them. If you read it, there's a big giant cliffhanger at the very end, the very last sentence. You're like, oh my gosh, why did we even do all of this, is what I thought. But other people would be like, I want to know what's going to happen next now. So, like I said, it wasn't for me. Maybe it's for you. The Gilded Wolves. If you want me to purchase it for the library, please tell me. Otherwise, I probably won't. The other book that I read was nonfiction. It was a memoir, by Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. I read the adult version. There's also a young adult version. The difference between the adult version and the young adult version, from what I've read, is that it's a little bit less detailed as to the maybe sensitive parts. Like, the only thing I could think of is like there is a lot of description of some criminal activity that he participated in, and some abuse and stuff with his stepfather. Maybe they've cleaned that up a little bit for the young adult version, but I don't see why anybody wouldn't be able to read or anybody in high school wouldn't be able to read the adult version. So I'll probably go ahead and buy that one for our library. But if you know who Trevor Noah is, he's host of The Daily Show. He was born in and grew up in South Africa. His mother was black, his father was Swiss German. Okay, well, when he was born, they were still under what's called apartheid, which is a very strict segregation system based on race, but not just black and white. It was black and white and Indian and what they call colored, which are where former white settlers mixed with African tribes, and there's just a whole lot of different gradations on what people were supposed to be and do, and you could move between them. Like you could become white, or you could be demoted from white to colored, depending on like what you looked like, or what you did, or where you lived, or whatever. But anyway, there's a lot of rules. And his memoir is called Born in Crime because interracial relationships were forbidden. Okay, they were literally illegal. There's a lot of description about how that affected his life growing up. Like for example, when he was out in public with his mother, sometimes she would pretend he wasn't her child, you know. Sometimes just to kind of get at him if he was not being good, you know, and he was kind of whining about something. There's one story where he's whining about something, he wants something at the store or whatever, and he's trying to get her to buy it, and she's just ignoring him, and she pretends that he's not her kid, and everybody else of course believes that he couldn't possibly be her kid because he's too light, and you don't have kids like that. So anyway, but he did a lot of other things growing up. He was really kind of a wild kid, and his mother was a very interesting character as well. I'm not going to tell you everything about it. I just encourage you to check it out. It was both funny and informative, and it was a good read. Now, for next time, I'll give you a sneak peek. I am this close to being done with Call Down the Hawk by Maggie C. Fodder, one of my favorite authors. And I'm also listening to Dear Evan Hansen on audio, which so far is pretty good. It's not at all what I expected to be. I didn't read anything about it before I started, so I had no idea what to expect. I just knew it was one of those books that people talk about. But I'll tell you about those next week, so we'll see you guys later.